Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart with Fireside. I'm here with Paul Mross of Happy Wellness. Paul, what do you do?
We engage kids in physical activities.
Is that a challenge sometimes?
It's a big challenge, especially for teachers, therapists, and then stay at home moms, especially during the COVID-19 environment that we're in. So, yes, getting kids out and active is very important, and sometimes it can be hard. So, that's why we created our products to engage them in a creative way.
So, how does it work?
So you can see some of our mats behind us, and we work with all age groups, but specifically for kids, we have a yoga mat that has markings on it that are for with animals and shapes. And basically it's taking the activity of yoga and putting it in an environment where the kids can use the mat as a way to understand some basic concepts. So maybe it's as simple as taking a wider stance, then you can point to some of the shapes and animals on the mat. It's kind of like playing yoga twister in a sense, but it's orientated towards kids. And then we have other products that work with it. So we have instruction cards that have a very basic idea of what the end activity should maybe look like. With yoga, it's not always the same, but it makes it look like it allows you to, the end user, the kids, the parents, the therapist to know what it's supposed to look like. And then we also have videos that correspond with how the mat's used for those activities.
So, it sounds like you kind of make yoga into a game.
Yes, yes, very much so. Yeah,
And
in fact, we have one of our parents that introduced this to her 4-year-old son said he's so engaged and he likes the mat so much that he actually pulls out his stuffed animals and he teaches his stuffed animals how to do yoga on the mats.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So, you were telling me too, so the one behind you that is on my right has these two big white feet. And you were saying that those are movable?
Yeah, I can. You want me to show
Yeah,
you?
show.
So they're peel and stick. So if I'm a therapist and I'm using, especially this environment, let's say I'm using this environment of Zoom and I want to have somebody at the other end, or when the kids are in school but they're doing Zoom or whatever virtual environment, if I wanted to instruct somebody where to put their feet or their hands, we have hand versions of these too, I can just peel and stick those and put those on the mat here, and then you ideally would be at home having the same mat, and then you would understand where to put the hands or the feet.
Wow, that's really creative. So kids are using these. Is anyone else using them?
So we range from kids with this mat to the other end of the spectrum. So I do research with the University of Wisconsin Madison on yoga and fall prevention. So actually, this one here, the green one, was the first one that we developed, and we used that in the research process for fall prevention. So you name the age group, and that's who we work with. So.
So do you work with disabled people too, or people that are in rehab or anything from injuries?
So specifically with the kids, yes, we work with different therapy organizations, Easter Seals of Central California, and local, especially in Wisconsin, some local therapy communities. And so with the therapists directly, they're using the mats and the system with all communities.
Wow. So I love your success story of teaching the animals yoga. That is just awesome. So, do you have any other success stories about people using these and really enjoying it or advancing their goals towards physical fitness?
So one of the things that we strive in the company and are always trying to evolve with is depictions, especially visual depictions, being inclusive and showing diversity. And so our instruction cards have kids on them, the instruction cards for kids, but then we also include things like kids in a wheelchair, or one of our cards has a guide dog with the child on the picture. And so one of the best stories that I heard around that with diversity and inclusion is that there was a therapist that was showing the cards. They were a beta tester for us with the cards, and they showed the cards to one of their kids, and this little girl was in a wheelchair, and she saw the one card that it was called Triangle Pizza Slice, right? So they're kind of sitting in a chair doing something like this. And she said, oh, I love this card. And the therapist said, well, why? And she said, well, look, there's somebody doing yoga just like me, and they look like me. And so it's those type of inspiring stories too that really kind of are important to us and touch our heart, because we're trying to make this accessible to as many different communities, and engaging kids in any way we can is really important.
So who's buying the mats?
So currently, what we just finished a Kickstarter campaign, and so we're actually moving into that realm with utilizing the Kickstarter campaign. We got some traction with people that wanted to actually buy the mats and donate them to their schools, their kids' schools or their grandkids' schools. And so we're actually actively looking at that. We're kind of pivoting into that school market right now. Up until that point, we work with research facilities. So those have been some of the people that have bought the mats. And then therapists are definitely on that list of people that are purchasing the mats. But really, with the Kickstarter campaign and we have a starter kit now, which has 13 activities. It includes the mat, it includes the videos, and that for not only the schools, but then the stay-at-home parents is a market that we're really connecting with.
So if I were a stay-at-home parent with a child that needed physical exercise in Wisconsin in the middle of the winter, now we're coming towards spring, we hope, but really, this is a great indoor exercise.
Right, exactly. And with daycares, anything, so it gives you the instructions as to how to do these specific activities, and it's basically progressive in the sense that then you can start to play with that in long term with things like we have a subscription service that you can actually every month or every week get a new activity, so you can keep growing with that with your kids.
Wow, that's excellent. So if I were a parent getting this kit, I guess the first thing you would encourage me to do would be to watch the videos to see how it works.
Yes. So we have an instructional video. We have an action figure that's on the video. So it's animation. So the videos are really animation. And so our action figure, we have an intro to how to actually use the animations. And so, yes, we would encourage you to look at the animations, just the intro to the animations to understand how that is. And then we also have instructions on where the symbols are and what the L and the R are. So we try to differentiate between right side, left side, and things like that. So you would look at all those instructions, and then ideally you would do this with your children, right? That's the goal too, is to not only get the kids engaged, but then hopefully the parents or the teachers are also getting engaged.
That's wonderful. Long ago, I used to do aerobics videos in my living room with my son when he was 2, and he always did them with me.
Yeah, exactly. So if we can get the whole family engaged, and our goal, we haven't done this yet, but the instructional cards and the video library or animation will be rolled out to older adults, will be our next group that we're working with, and adults, right? And so it'll be both the adult population, and our goal is that eventually we can combine those two together, right? So you've got the action figure for the kid and the action figure for the adult, and then they can come together in one video, and then the whole family can do the activities together.
That sounds awesome. And I know you said you're just starting your marketing, but I really do feel that it's brilliant that you use the animation. You know, we're doing a new website for my husband's law firm and we're using animation on there. I think it really captures people's attention and keeps it, especially when you're trying to explain something, right? So, so that
Yeah.
was a really brilliant move.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were blessed with over 150 beta users when we started to develop this, and we initially worked with the therapy community and specifically occupational therapists and physical therapists. And they gave us back so much detail and so much information. In fact, the mats, we no longer print them on colored um, mat material. They're printed on black matte material because of the contrast between the colors. So when you start talking about kids that might be visually impaired, right, you want to have that contrast there if their vision allows that. And so but when it came to the animation, it was really important to have um, unidentifiable characteristics with the animation so that the kids aren't just watching the animation, right, to watch the animation. It's more of utilizing the animation and the instructions and the mat as a communication tool. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. It's an educational communication tool to help with engaging kids in physical activities. So the animation, the action figure really needed to be kind of generic, you know, in what it does. And it's about indicating movement, indicating, so one example is we have this little tiny dot that'll show up on the knee. If we're asking the right knee to be bent, then that's an indicator as to, oh, the right knee needs to be bent. So
You put a tremendous amount of research and thought into this, and I can see why people love it. I mean, it looks like fun just sitting here talking to you and looking at the mats behind you.
it is a lot of fun. When we did this with the research community the first time with the older adults, and um, they really started to rely on it, but they also had fun because it was taking away that element. These older adults that had never done yoga before, so they didn't know anything about like where they're supposed to put one foot in the right side and left side. And I don't know about you, but I always have issues with like right side, left side if somebody's telling me to do something, right? And and so it did become kind of a game that we started to play with them, and it's even more so with the kids. We've heard therapists say things like they'll play Simon Says, not necessarily engaging them in yoga activities, but the mat is a great template, especially in a limited space. You know, some therapy offices are pretty small, so they could put that down and they play Simon Says, or they do different things like that with the mat because the symbols and the shapes and the animals engage the kids.
That's excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about your business before we end our interview?
Other than you can find out more information on happyw.co, and we welcome any questions or comments. And no, that's it.
And well, where are you selling these right now?
So right now they're sold on our website. So specifically through the website, we're at a couple conferences. We're going to be doing another series of Kickstarters in the summertime. So those are pretty much the places that we're at. We're still working the end user market. So like an Amazon market or something like that is nothing that we've gone into currently. Because we really want to get the influencers like the therapists and the teachers and the school organizations on board. But eventually we would go there. That's a whole marketing business model that can be complicated, and we didn't want to go there right off the bat.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think if you're selling them from your website and if people can get involved with Kickstarter, that's enough to start. I think that's a smart way to do it. Start small because Amazon takes a big chunk of your profit. So I think you're better.
It does,
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of time too. So
yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Paul. I'm fascinated with this. Thank you.
great. Thank you so much for having me.